Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of ITL's Takeover, the state of football. It's July 27, 2021, episode 256. Can't stop, won't stop. I'm not Rick Saracella. My name's Neil. His name's Bo. I'm coming to you live from Houston. Bo's coming to you from Ohio. Good morning, Bo. How are you doing this morning, brother?
Good morning, Neil. Good morning, everyone out there watching the state of football this morning. Great morning so far, Neil. Excited to get the show going. We got a great lineup again as day 2 with us hosting the program.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the guests. I'm just happy to see you this morning, Bo. I mean, yesterday was a little bumpy. First day here. You know, there's always got to be something that goes wrong. Yesterday you had a few internet problems. I was afraid I was gonna have to go up there and plug something in for you. Praise God that didn't happen. How'd that go? What exactly happened yesterday? Do we know what our technical difficulties were?
No, I ended up having to just unplug the internet and replug it, and thankfully it started. But I knew you wanted to prep, so 7:45 your time, 8:45 my time, 8:30 I got the computer out, hooked it up, and I start trying to log in. I keep getting all these weird things, so I get the other computer out. Same thing. I got two computers on the table. Neither one of them got an internet connection. So now it's like 8:51. You guys are texting me, hey, what's going on? I still can't get the internet going. I'm like, out of all the mornings, I was about to start swearing and going nuts, but luckily it reset, and then we got everything going. And I think the show ran smooth. I don't know when I actually officially got on, but it was pretty darn close to kickoff time.
Nobody complained. I mean, I think we have pretty friendly viewers. We have pretty friendly audience. I think there's 7 of them out there, and none of the 7 reached out to me. So I guess things look pretty good, and hopefully we fooled everyone on day 1. And so, so far so good, man. We'll have to keep it going today. Hopefully, no more glitches, no more issues, no more pauses. Everything will go well. Real excited about our guests today. We'll have Eugene Lee of Vanguard Sports Group at the top of the show, followed by Jeremiah Sirlies, who's taking the agent exam this year. Actually, I guess next month in 9 days. Jeremiah is a former NFL offensive lineman. He played at Nebraska. He's with the Husker Sports Network now. I mean, he's got all these awesome things going. I guess he wants to really wreck things by becoming an agent. We're going to talk to him about that. And we're also going to talk to Blake Beddingfield, long-time friend of ITL. Blake was director of college scouting for the Titans, was with the team for about 20 years. Saw a lot of interesting things. He's been a guest of mine on the Best Player Available podcast as well. He was outstanding. Actually, he was our first guest. He was episode number 1. So we got some great stuff great people to talk to today, great stuff to talk about. Before we get started, I just want to have a quick message from Brain Vault, and then we will take it away.
As parents, coaches, and mentors, we are there for all of our athletes' bumps and bruises, triumphs and failures. We believe that playing sports is a great way to teach our children fundamental life lessons, but we also want to keep them safe and prevent serious injuries. One of the biggest misconceptions in sports safety today is that helmets prevent concussions. Helmets do not prevent concussions. A 2014 study by Dr. Robert Cantu from the CTE Center at Boston University's School of Medicine concluded that the most significant factor in reducing concussion risk is increasing neck strength. Cantu determined that for every 1 pound increase in neck strength, odds of concussion decreased by 5%. With that in mind, we created Brain Vault, a revolutionary and patented mouthguard that has been shown in our independent testing to put the jaw in the optimal position to properly align the head and neck and increase neck strength by an average of 17 pounds. We may never be able to fully prevent concussions, but Brain Vault plays a critical role in reducing overall concussion risk and is backed by science. To learn more about our easy, affordable, and effective technology, visit brainvault.com and join the movement.
All right, Brain Vault. Check it out, people. Bo, take it away, buddy.
Awesome. Well, we have a guy on the show now, and we're going to start out with Eugene Lee, the Senior VP of Football Operations at Vanguard Sports Group. He's built his career in the most respected agents out there, represented for over 2 decades, certified back in '97. He's also been the subject of a 30 for 30 documentary. He's written a book about agents' business. He's even hosted his own radio show. And me personally, I think he's probably one of the finest, most stylish, fashioned-looking agents out there. And Eugene, welcome to the State of Football.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Eugene, what's up, brother?
I don't know if I can live up to that intro.
Eugene, my first question, man, what are you wearing today? I mean, because Bo nailed it. You are one of the most fashion-conscious guys that I know, and definitely in the industry, man. I can't imagine. Are you dressed up, man? Are you looking good?
I am at a family wedding this week, so I flew out with my family. Actually, it was the first trip that my whole family's taken on a plane since COVID.
Oh, gosh.
So we're in Connecticut, and so I have a pre-workout outfit on. The hotel has a nice fitness center, so I have just a t-shirt and some shorts on. And my son is being very good right now. He woke up early. Mommy and my baby daughter are sleeping still.
All right.
He's sitting on the couch right next to me, and hopefully he can keep it together for the duration of my segment.
Hey, man, it's live television. Whatever happens. That's what makes it exciting. Eugene, man, you've been featured on an ESPN documentary. You're a star. You've written a book. We allude to the fact you had your own radio show for a while. Why is that, man? Do you ever feel like that amount of exposure could be used against you by rival agents, by rival firms, by people who maybe aren't as scrupulous and maybe looking for a weakness?
You know, the one thing you learn over time is that you learn what you're about, who you are, but you also know who you're not. And for me, it's just owning everything I do. And it stems from my faith and understanding that, when you commit your work, in my opinion, you commit your work to the Lord, you're empowered to do great things beyond yourself. And so if somebody wants to use it against me, I'm just trying to shine light. I'm trying to be the best that I can be to fulfill the plan that I know is set for my life. And so I have no control. One thing that you learn and one thing that we preach to our clients is that you can control what you can control. And for circumstances outside of your control, don't sweat the petty stuff. So I'm just going to continue walking down that path and, being the best that I can be for my clients.
Now, Vanguard has kind of waded into that NIL pool already. He's on one of the top 22 prospects, Texas A&M, Jaden Watermeyer. Do you think Vanguard will continue to be aggressive? And for you, what challenges face an agent that does not sign players for these NIL deals, if any?
So our strategy is basically working with, being very selective in terms of NIL players. And, I can tell you right off the bat that, we would not be looking to do a one-off NIL deal for any players that we would not ultimately want to represent on the player contract side as a player agent. So, obviously it's part of, these are relationships that have already been established, and, NIL is a new wrinkle. It's a new nuance. It's been entered into the equation this year. But yeah, we will be active, but we'll be very selective. And again, we will work with players that we will ultimately want to represent, God willing, at the end of the process.
What kind of deals are becoming, I don't know, I guess what's coming across your desk right now, Eugene? I mean, we've seen, appearances, we've seen some signings. Is that pretty much what we can expect for Jalen, or are there bigger, more ambitious things ahead? Do you know?
Our director of brand operations, she and, the primary agent for Jalen within our group, I believe it's Jemani Ford. They're doing a fantastic job of navigating that. So I don't know the actual particulars. I think from a broader standpoint, from a more high-level overview of Vanguard in our football division, I think we're being very strategic about partnerships. We're being very cognizant not to give away long-term leverage on deals. We're being very careful not to dilute a player's brand. We don't want players to be billboards. We want players to align with partners where there's a genuine, authentic passion in the brand and in the product, because that will only strengthen them. And so being selective, again, being strategic about the partnerships we build, I think that'll be the core of everything that we do with Jalen and for any other future NIL clients that we sign.
Such an important point. You don't want to dilute that market. You want to make sure that you kind of keep that maintained, or you're really not taking care of the kid the way you need to. All right, so you run your own firm, Eugene. you're also now part of a firm with a lot of established agents that, this is a kind of a lot more horsepower. What are the pros and cons of being independent? What are the pros and cons of being, with a bigger firm like you are now?
When you're independent, obviously you have a lot more autonomy. You can kind of run things in a manner that is consistent with how you envision, you want the business to go and how, your long-term vision. I'm sorry. When you join a larger group, obviously, there are more people involved in the decision-making process. It's more collaborative effort. And I think that's a strength. I think that's an advantage that you can employ, not only just drawing upon your own background and experience, but also being able to utilize the experience, the insight, the perspective, and the expertise of, several qualified agents and individuals. And so I think there's strength in numbers. Absolutely.
How about your assistant, man? It looks like your assistant, he's kind of an advisor. You got too, huh?
This is my assistant, Lucas. I am sorry. This is live television, guys. So, you want Swedish fish? Okay.
Hey, that's what makes this fun, man.
No, I would just say, it's great to have more agents involved. There are economies of scale when you're able to draw upon the expertise and the experience of many more individuals than just yourself. And so that's been a tremendous asset. And it's been great, especially in building relationships with prospective clients. So it's been fantastic.
Okay.
Now, you've never hidden your faith. Does your walk with Christ impact who you recruit or who you sign? And with everything going your way, I always like to say Psalms 37:4, Lord, forgive you the desire of heart, and that's to come to fruition for you. But when you're on that recruiting trail, how much does that impact who you look at and who you really want to pursue, if it does?
There has to be, and I guess it kind of works its way out organically. The players that we recruit, they will understand and appreciate, because like you said, I'm pretty open. I'm very open about my faith and the impact that it has on my work. And so, in terms of the players that we represent and recruit, I find more often than not, 99% of the time, there will be players that appreciate and with whom, either they're believers themselves or they're open and they understand and they respect the importance of faith in my life. But I would say more often than not, there usually is a consistency there in terms of gravitating and signing and working with players and families where there is an appreciation for that faith aspect.
Eugene, what are the challenges of having a son, having little kids, man, and being part of this?
Great.
I mean, that's got to be a big issue when you're in a job as intense as this.
I think my mommy's coming in for some backup support. So that's a great question and very organic and very relevant to what's been happening here the last few minutes. It's, there definitely is in this business, as you guys all know. I mean, there are demands on your time. There's travel, there's, uneven work schedules. It's not a 9-to-5 grind. It's about always being available and going, obviously, in your industry, going where the news happens and just being on top of it. And so finding that balance it's a struggle. I mean, it definitely is something that you have to be aware of each and every day. And, I've been blessed to have, dear friends of mine who have been in the business on the front office side and every aspect of the business. And, they'll tell you that it's hard sometimes, the sacrifices you make in this business, the biggest brunt falls on your family. And so again, the prayer I say every day, and I actually said it on this morning before coming on this show, is, my God, my family, and then my career. And in our business, it's very easy for that to get out of whack, get out of order. And so I think it's important, it's imperative to kind of stay in tune, do your spiritual push-ups every day, and make sure that you're doing everything you can to kind of stay aligned with that ultimate philosophy.
Spiritual push-ups. That's a great way to put it, man. That is a really that's smart and something you got to put in the box early on. That's for sure. All right, so Eugene, there are a lot of aspiring agents, a lot of people that are going to be taking the exam next month in 9 short days that are watching today. What's harder, recruiting and signing a player, or keeping him happy, maintaining him, and getting him to that second deal I mean, I hear both. And I think the second one maybe is the one you don't hear about as much if you're not in the industry. But which one is more of a challenge in your estimation?
I'll tell you, in my experience, the second is harder, and I think, well, they're both hard, but I think relative one against the other, maintaining a client, getting a client to a second deal is hard because, based on the economics of the business, there are agents out there, that I won't name, but they understand that the business model is much easier for a veteran client who's is approaching the end of his rookie deal, who's played himself into position for a really nice second contract, where this new agent can pick up a client without any outlay, without any expense, without any training costs or any per diems, and simply just negotiate a deal and get paid. And so, unfortunately, there are agents out there that that's part of their methodology in terms of identifying agents and agencies with players that, could be potential targets for them. And so the key on the front end is identifying and recruiting and representing the types of young men that understand and appreciate, the value you've added, the relationship you've built, and who pride and value loyalty. And so it's just doing right by your clients, being the absolute best you can for them each and every day. And, hoping at that point that you will have the opportunity to work with them and see the relationship to fruition. And, for me, and coming on board with Vanguard, that was a very key element, is having the resources, having the platform, having the professionals to really allow us to get to the promised land now on those second deals. So I'm very excited about how things are coming. I'm more excited about where we're going to go.
Outstanding, brother. Listen, thanks so much for being on today. One last thing.
Yeah.
What is the one piece of advice you give to the next generation of agents, the people that are taking the exam on August 5th, as they proceed through their career? What should they know, Eugene?
What I would say, two things. I would say, don't underestimate the value of relationships. Relationships in this business, whether you think it's going to benefit you in the short term or not, whether you think it's somebody, they don't necessarily have to be affiliated with an NFL team. I mean, it can be a media member, it can be a trainer, it can be media coach, whomever it may be. Don't ever underestimate the value of the relationships you build in this business. They will become your biggest asset over time. And through those relationships, always be cognizant of the reputation that you build. Your reputation, just like any other business. I tell players all the time, agents earn reputations around the NFL. And an agent's reputation can either help you or hinder you not only during the pre-draft process, but throughout the course of your NFL career. And so understanding that it takes a lifetime to build a reputation, but it can be shattered, taken away from you in a few seconds. So being cognizant of the two, I think that would be the advice that I give. And obviously hard work, it's a given. You have to be willing to grind. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to really, go with the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows in the business. But when you find something that you're passionate about, and again, it goes back to faith, understanding that and seeking the path that God has chosen for you, that's where you find strength. That's where you're empowered to do great things beyond your own ability. And so that would be my advice.
No doubt about it, brother. Eugene, I can't thank you enough for coming on remotely and being, I know you had a lot to battle with today. I'm privileged to have had two generations of Lees on today for no extra charge. Maybe in 20 years we'll do this show again and he'll be the one. You'll be in
there you go.
In your wheelchair or whatever.
I'll be in the background having a bourbon, relaxing with a stogie.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. You've been a friend for a long time.
You, brother.
Supported by ITL. You're a member of the ITL family. I'm honored to have you on and honored to have you as a friend. Have a great rest of the day, man. Best of luck on that wedding. And God's blessings there too, buddy.
Likewise. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Bo. You guys are the best.
Thanks,
and for anybody who's for anybody who doesn't subscribe to Inside the League, it is College to Pro, Bo's site, and I encourage you to do so. There's some fabulous content out there. And they didn't even ask me to say it. They didn't even ask me to say that.
Checks in the mail, Eugene. Checks in the mail, buddy.
Got it. All right.
Thanks.
Take care, fellas.
Thanks. Thank you, man. All right, that was a lot of fun. That was that reminds me of the video, that everyone's seen now, the kid waddling into his dad's room, and we've got maybe that's our first viral moment, Bo.
I love it. That's the originality, and I think that makes it fun. And if anyone watches the show today, they're going to go to that point where his little boy is, is kind of having, making the show. I mean, when you saw that little foot come over the shoulder, that's what it's about. That makes it fun. I mean, it really does. I mean, and that just shows you the technology of today, where I'm in my home, you're in your home, he's in a hotel room, his wife's waking up, his son's waking up, or just this is kind of how it goes now. But
that's right.
Nonetheless, and I see Sammy's thing. I mean, the Swedish fish. The Swedish fish was actually that was fantastic. You want some Swedish fish?
A new chapter in the ITL history. All right, so we got another great guest coming on, but before we introduce Jeremiah, just one brief word from inside the league on our exam prep materials.
You can't become an agent without passing the exam. We can help. We introduced our first practice test in 2012. Since then, we've added a study guide and a second exam, and we've helped hundreds pass a test that 55% fail. Our clients succeed at a rate 25% higher than others. For the cost of a plane ticket, you can buy our guide and take both our exams multiple times. Check us out.
As parents, coaches, and mentors, we are there for all of our athletes' bumps and bruises, triumphs and failures. We believe that playing sports is a great way to teach our children fundamental life lessons, but we also want to keep them safe and prevent serious injuries. One of the biggest misconceptions in sports safety today is that helmets prevent concussions. Helmets do not prevent concussions. A 2014 study by Dr. Robert Cantu from the CTE Center at Boston University's School of Medicine concluded that the most significant factor in reducing concussion risk is increasing neck strength. Cantu determined that for every 1 pound increase in neck strength, odds of concussion decreased by 5%. With that in mind, we created BrainVault, a revolutionary and patented mouthguard that has been shown in our independent testing to put the jaw in the optimal position to properly align the head and neck and increase neck strength by an average of 17 pounds. We may never be able to fully prevent concussions, but BrainVault plays a critical role in reducing overall concussion risk and is backed by science. To learn more about our easy, affordable, and effective technology, visit brainvault.com and join the movement.
All right, BrainVault sounds like a great product, great service. It's begun by a friend of mine, Drew Pittman, who's been an agent for a long time, based here in Texas. Great new, exciting, hopefully, device that will help curb concussions and a lot of other issues, a lot of other ills. All right, Bo. Let's see. We got Jeremiah Sirlies next. Why don't you tell us who he is?
Well, Jeremiah Sirlies is a very accomplished man in terms of the football world. If you're not familiar with him, he played his collegiate football at Nebraska. He played on multiple conference championship teams. He spent 6 seasons in the National Football League with 4 different teams, and he serves as the broadcaster with the Husker Sport Network. And his next challenge, his next task to achieve, is he's going to be taking that NFLPA exam, which is next month. So Jeremiah Sirlies, welcome to the show, I should say.
Okay, I think we're a little slow. We're still having a few little bumps along the way trying to get Jeremiah on. But Jeremiah is going to be taking the agent exam next month. That is August 5th. I keep saying next month. It's really not that far away, 9 days. And Jeremiah has availed himself of our study guide as well as both of our practice exams. I think more people probably should be taking advantage of these services. We've been offering these since 2000. Well, we've offered our first practice exam in 2012. I think we introduced the study guide the year after that, and then we introduced exam 2 in 2018. They take your chances of passing the exam from about 45%, which is what it has been in the past, to 70% if you are using our stuff. So it is an advantage. I think it really does help, and hopefully more and more people will kind of get the word out about that. We are very proud to offer it. We're very proud to partner with so many people that are trying to live their dreams and become agents and become contract advisors and help players kind of shepherd them through the process. We have got, let's see, so we are going to juggle things a little bit. We're going to move Blake Beddingfield up in the process. Blake is, as you know, a former NFL executive, and I think we're having a little trouble with reaching Jeremiah, so we're going to have a little more time with Blake, and pretty excited about that. Let's talk. Okay.
Gentlemen, we actually have Jeremiah was able to join us, so we will definitely have him back on the program, and then Mr. Beddingfield right after. Thank you for tuning in to the State of Football. Sincerely, the producer, Sammy C.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you. All right, we have Jeremiah now. You there, brother?
I am here. I am so sorry. I had the old Eastern Central Time problem popped up on my calendar there, so I apologize for that.
No worries, man. Hey, listen, we're proud to have you here whenever we can get you, man. Professional broadcaster, former professional player. So, Jeremiah, your post-playing career seems to be going well. Why in the world do you want to be an agent, buddy?
You know, there's a lot of reasons. I think one of the main reasons is the NFL for me gave me so much for my life. It allowed me to set up my family. It allowed me to be 28 and retired. And so for me, I saw an opportunity there that with my agent and the help that he gave me allowed me to set my life up in a big way. I saw so many guys that had way more talent than I had way more physical ability than I had, but their career never got off the ground because I really felt like they had the wrong people surrounding them in their inner circle, which really for me made it seem like their career never got off the ground. And so I have what I say a PhD in football, right? I have a 6-year postgraduate degree in football. I have absolute zero desire to go into any kind of college or NFL coaching. So this allows me to stick around the game. It allows me to use my football knowledge and allows me to do what I love to do in helping people.
I get it.
Now, Jeremiah, change is coming fast, and for today's student athlete, as we know, I mean, even the brightest stars seem to be forgotten quickly. Do you think you can relate well to today's prospect and kind of know what they're going through, considering that you've already went through it, about a decade or so ago?
Yeah, I think I can. And the reason I say that is obviously in the agent business, there's a lot of recruiting that goes into it. And so it's not just recruiting the top football players, it's recruiting the right guys. And as a former offensive lineman, we're all very kind of similar. And I've said it for a long time. You can pick up an offensive lineman from pretty much any team and plug them into another O-line room, and they're probably eventually going to, like within the first 5 days, fit in. And so that's something that I feel like I do have going for me in the front seven of the offensive lines and the tight ends and the linebackers, D linemen, of the ability to relate on the level of like, hey man, your knees hurt this morning too. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And let's be real, as an offensive lineman, we don't have a bunch of brands banging down our doors to sign NIL deals or sign massive marketing deals. And a lot of us just want to show up and play football. And so I think for me, that's been the learning curve, is trying to recruit not just the top guys because that's expensive and it's going to be borderline impossible as a new agent, but to recruit the right guys that you can build the right connections with and really have that long-term relationship with, instead of just that immediate gratification, look at the shiny object type relationship.
Yeah, offensive linemen are different, and I can say that because I'm a former offensive lineman myself. Right. I tell people it doesn't matter what color an offensive lineman, what his socioeconomic background is. It doesn't really matter much. They just all seem to kind of knit together. And the other thing that's unusual about offensive linemen, an offensive line is almost like one organism. It's when you're good, you're working asynchronously. Everyone kind of knows what's going on, and they kind of move almost as one. It's like one heartbeat, the old expression from Bear Bryant. So your plan is to work with your former agent, Chris Giddings, at his firm, One West Sports. Chris is a warrior, man. He's been doing this for a long time. He's not the guy that's flashy. He's not the guy that everyone knows his name, as far as casual fans. What did you learn from Chris that you hope to put to work in your career? You're with him for a long time. You've known him for a long time. What characteristics, what qualities that Chris showed you when you're playing will you try to incorporate as you become an agent yourself?
The biggest thing for me, and one of the sole reasons I chose Chris is because he was a football guy. He played college football. He didn't play at the NFL, but he played college football. And when I sat through the agent interview process of meeting with a bunch of different agents, it almost to me felt like a lot of agents were focusing on the wrong thing. In those recruiting meetings, like, hey, we're going to build your brand and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And talking to a guy that had a grade of a low round pick to a PFA, it's like, that's cool and all, but I would like to make the football team and then we can figure it out from there. And Chris was all about talking to me about football, the plan that we're going to have to get you the best football player you're going to be, the plans that when you rock into rookie minicamp, you're ready to rock and roll. And that was the first time I'd heard even the words rookie minicamp from an agent. And so I think the biggest thing that I want to focus on is kind of what I alluded to in my first point is we're going to focus on getting you on the field as a rookie. We're going to focus on you having a career. The brand building and all that stuff will come with football. But you can have the biggest, shiniest, greatest brand in the world, and no one cares if you don't play. It's not an important thing to me initially to have that be out the gate. I want to be able to talk football, X's and O's, power, zone, blocking schemes, route combinations, coverages. Those are all things that, like I said, I have a 6-year football degree in that because I took it very seriously that when I was in the NFL, I was going to be the smartest one on the field. Because, again, I wasn't the most physically gifted guy, but I knew if I could put myself in the right position, I'd give myself a chance at least 90% of the time. So those are all things that, as I learned going through my career, that I want to give our guys up front so that you can extend those careers 1 or 2 years on the back end, because that's where you talk about making the millions of dollars is when you can go from year 6 to year 7, 8.
You think that message will still resonate with today's player, Jeremiah?
I think it'll resonate with the right player. I think that a lot of guys won't like that. I think a lot of guys are going to hear that message from us and say, that's not my thing. And that's fine for me. It has been an adjustment for me of the recruiting battles as long as adjusting my mindset from losing to it just wasn't the right fit. Because as the competitor in me, it's like guy calls and says, hey, you guys aren't in the top 3 or whatever it might be. Like initially it really pissed me off. And I was like, what are we doing wrong? Right? Like, why are we losing? What's going on? And Chris, the old wisdom of the 24-year vet says, Jeremiah, you don't lose. It wasn't the right fit for them. And if it wasn't the right fit for them, it probably wouldn't have been the right fit for us. And that's not how you want to build these relationships. Mm-hmm. And so I think that you just have to stay true to who you are. I think a lot of times certain agents are going to put on cloaks, or even financial advisors or whoever wants to get into these players' inner circle, because again, I lived this. I know this is a truth, that people will put on cloaks and they will show and say whatever they think they need to say in that moment to sign a player, or whatever they need to say in that moment to make that player trust them. And then all of a sudden you sign that SRA, you sign that contract, and it's like, who are you? Like, who is this guy? And I pledge to never be that guy. I am who I am. I've been who I was when I was in the league. I've been who I is now. And that's my pledge to my players is that's just what we do. And so, like you said, there's absolutely players that aren't going to love that message. No, I want my brand. I want my all that. But I think the right players, the ones that want to show up, play football, and just kind of be there for the love of the game and want the help from a former player, it's going to really resonate with them.
Jeremiah, I can feel your passion coming through the screen. I mean, I think when you sit down with these future clients, when they hear that sort of message, at least when I was listening to you, I could sense the passion and the realness of it all. Now, I think August 5th, I know it's coming up quickly. This agents and exam is on its way. On a scale of 1 to 10, how prepared do you feel? And are you pretty confident that, once you take this exam, you're going to get that passing certificate?
Oh, I'm a 10. I'm going to blow this thing out of the water, man. I had to petition the NFL to get an exemption to take the exam because based off the fact that I don't have a master's degree and I have 6 credited seasons, not 7. So they were graceful enough to grant me a petition or to take the exam. And so I'm not going to let them down. I'm not going to let Chris down, who's something credited. I'm going to blow this thing out of the water, man. I've been studying my tail off. I got all my stuff. We got the CBA all marked up. We're ready to go, man. I can't get here soon enough for me. It's one of those things that you just sit here and it's waiting. But I'll tell you this, it's made me such a better agent because there's so many things, the studying and everything that, for one, I lived a lot of it, which helps. right? Like you read through stuff that it's like, oh, exclusive free agent, restricted free agent. It's like, well, I was both those. So I understand, I understand how all that works. And then you go through like the testing policies and stuff. So a lot of that is good to refresh on, because when you live it and you pay attention, it ingrains. But then the new stuff you get to learn and just go through the nuances of the behind the scenes curtains of the NFL, I think is really fun to dive into. And I'm just excited to go to bat for my players and help support my players through all this. But yeah, this test is just like this lingering thing that feels like it's been 2 years in the making because of last year. So I'm a 10, man. I'm going to absolutely blow this thing out of the water.
I love it.
Now, a lot of the people here don't know that Chris is actually getting 2 agents certified. You and Zach Zinner, a former NFL running back. Do you and Zinner have any kind of competition on who's going to finish with a higher score or anything like that?
No. So for those of you that don't know, Zach Zenner was accepted into medical school primarily before going into the NFL. And when I mean accepted, I mean he got a 98% on his MCAT score and had a full ride to medical school. So I will never challenge Dr. Zenner in any type of academics whatsoever. But I will say it's been really nice having a guy like that to study with. And I think that the two of us make a great team in that regard, of the cerebral piece that Zach brings, and the other piece of I'm more, as you guys can tell, a little bit more of the outgoing, go get it, talk to anyone, like butterfly around the room type of guy, where Zach's much more of he's going to sit back, observe, and really push forward. And so he's actually getting his master's right now. He's just set up in dietitian, which is something he's going to bring to our agency to help our players, because he just loves school so much. So he figured, why not study for the agent exam and get my master's while I'm at it? So, we've worked really well together. Zach's a phenomenal. He's going to be a great agent too, because we have very similar philosophies. And the three of us, between Chris's experience, Zach and I being fresh out of the league, and the league's so small, man. Zach played on 7 teams. I played on 4. I mean, we got players that we know on almost every team. We've got coaches that we know, or front office people that know on almost every team. And so when players come at us with, well, you guys aren't very experienced, it's like, no, but I got phone numbers for a lot of people that are very current in the NFL still right now.
Yeah, good point. Mm-hmm. All right, so Jeremiah, and I should also add, Jeremiah has been on top of me about every little issue. He's using our executive prep materials. He has gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and so I give him a lot of credit for that. There's nothing gets past him. He may get 100 on this exam. He's not giving him. He acts like he's some big dopey lineman, but I think he's going to ace this thing. Jeremiah, the NFLPA's posture towards players and ex-players can be very different from its posture towards contract advisors. Mm-hmm. Did you feel the Player Association was a positive for you when you were a player, and how has it been so far as you pursue your agent career?
You know, the Players Association, I think, I got to think how I want to word this. They're an entity that is there to protect the players, but at the same time, I feel like they have a little bit of a foot in both camps of they want to protect the shield too. And so as a player, you always felt like they were sticking up for you, but then there was times you kind of felt like, hey, where are you guys at? Like, where's everything going on? Or like with the new contract negotiator, when the new CBA was going on, all we heard for my entire career when I was in the NFL for 6 years was save. We're going to war. We're going to hold out. We're going to do all these things. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hits and it's like, hey, we signed a new CBA. And it was just kind of very interesting in that front. As the former player now, and I will give them some grace as far as the fact of with COVID and everything, they've been extremely difficult to get a hold of. They've been extremely difficult to converse back and forth with on a consistent basis. Now, every single time I've needed to pick up and call one of my reps that I know personally, they've picked up the phone because, again, I am that former player. But when you switch it to the agent side of the agent services piece of the NFLPA, they've been very tough to get in contact with consistently. And again, I think a lot of that goes to the fact that I made a lot of connections when I went to the combine in 2019 or 2020, and then everything shut down, right? And so I didn't know who was still working, who was still where. So I think that it's gotten a lot better since the test got rescheduled and we've started to get emails coming out more consistently of when we're doing things and how things are going. But I do think it's going to be a little bit of a back and forth for me of like, hey, you're my PA, but also I'm an agent. And so it's going to be, I won't say hard, but I think it's going to be challenging for both of us to balance that on the front. But I will have to shift expectations as far as how much I expect from them as a player versus me as an agent.
I get it. All right. Well, Jeremiah, best of luck, buddy. Thanks so much for joining us. It was a lot of fun listening to you. Just like Bo said, I mean, the passion comes through. Again, I think offensive linemen are a little different breed, and I think they relate better to people, especially to fellow linemen. I think you're going to have a lot of success. I wish you success. And again, just thanks so much for joining us today, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Neil, I want to thank you guys for that Inside the League study guide materials and everything. I know that I told you this on the phone, but you probably get a lot of flack for some of the stuff, but it's been extremely helpful. If anyone is considering taking the exam, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Getting through the study guide and the tests and all that stuff has been extremely helpful in just guiding where to study and where to look, because it can be a pretty daunting task at first. So thank you and your staff for that. And thank you guys for having me on here. It's been really fun.
Thanks, brother. We appreciate you. Have a blessed rest of the day.
Absolutely, guys. And again, sorry about the time change issue. I got to get that fixed.
Not a problem. All right, Jeremiah Sirlies, that was a pleasure. Going to be a great agent. Just got to get past this big exam, which is coming up, but I think that'll be merely a stumbling block for him, not too much at all.
Yeah, and you can sense that passion, Neil, right? I mean, I love you can see if he's sitting with a kid, they're going to feel the realness, the sincereness, when he comes through. And now, are we set with Mr. Beddingfield? Are we ready to go with our next guest?
I think so. I think we are.
Well, let's get this thing going. I'm excited to add our final guest of the second day of the show with me and Neil Stratton. It's none other than Blake Beddingfield. He spent 2 decades with the Tennessee Titans, serving as the team's director of college scouting. Since then, he's been a key part of the ITL family, serving as a guest at the numerous Zoom sessions, speaking at both the 2018 and 2019 personal symposiums. He's written hundreds of player evaluations, even joining us in the debut edition of the first ever podcast, The Best Player Available. Today, Blake has several ongoing football-related projects. And with that said, Blake, welcome to the program. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, guys. Happy to be on.
Hey, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for kind of rolling with the punches a little bit. And thanks for everything you've done for ITL, man. You've been, as Bo mentioned, you've been such a big part of the ITL family, and you're such a natural when it comes on. I mean, I think I take advantage of it. And most importantly, Bo, Blake, you work cheap, and that's what I like most about you, I think, of everything, of all your generous qualities. So, Blake, your former team's 2020 first-round pick didn't work out so well. Isaiah Wilson, he's already out of the league, kind of flamed out in famous fashion. I think everyone's seen the videos of him dancing on cars and doing all kinds of things that don't normally have application as an NFL offensive lineman. How can a team try to avoid a situation like this? And how much does it set a team back to essentially completely punt on a first-round pick?
I think this is when you have to really trust your evaluators on the ground in the school. The COVID year obviously set a lot of teams back from being able to interview a player personally in person, and those things are tough. But you have to work around those type issues. The league has gotten younger in terms of scouting staffs, and with the youth, you get a lot of new, fresh ideas, but you don't have the contacts that some of the veteran scouts have. I think when you look at teams like the Steelers and some of the programs that still have veteran scouts, they tend to have less of these type issues when you're talking about off the field issues, or that they at least know of them when they come onto the organization. But, to avoid those, you have to do your homework. As an area scout, that is your number one job. You're an evaluator of talent, sure. You have to put a grade on the player and the talent that he has, but you have to be a private investigator too. You have to have those contacts in the school, in the community, to be able to find out what type of person you're getting. Even if you have to go back to his high school coach, high school counselor, and pick up the phone and make that phone call and see what type of person he is. It's so important, especially with a first-round pick. You can't screw up a 4th or 5th round pick, but you can't screw up the first-round pick, because what you said, it sets the team back. If you look at what the Titans had to do this year, they went out in free agency and had to sign a Kendall Lamb for $3.5 million to replace the right tackle position, which is what Isaiah Wilson was going to do. And then on top of that, they added a 2nd-round pick out of North Dakota State, Dylan Reduce. and had to continue to use funds and value and picks and money to replace that one mistake they had in the first round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess having Derrick Henry really kind of helps erase a lot of those problems, but you cannot overcome those forever when you make those kinds of mistakes. And I don't think anyone predicted that Isaiah wasn't going to be the kind of story that he turned out to be, but at the same time he was. And now they're left kind of having to pick up the pieces.
When you make a pick like that in the first round, you want that player to be a home run, a knockout. He's going to be. Isaiah was kind of a borderline first round pick anyway. So that was one of those, they took a chance on a player that was borderline talent wise at that round. And then with the off the field issues, if you're going to make that mistake, I remember when Randy Moss came out, he ended up having some issues where he dropped in the draft, but he was a bona fide all-star type player, and you knew it if you could deal with the other stuff, maybe off the field. So, those type of things. If you're going to take a chance on greatness.
Yeah, you're right.
Well said. Now, two teams, Blake, with the elite quarterbacks in terms of Green Bay and Houston. These quarterbacks seem to be, I would assume, in their final seasons under center with these teams. But let's say you were in need of a quarterback. How would you approach these teams and trying to pry loose one of these players to kind of improve your own position? And would you feel confident with the market value in terms of, what you could get these guys for?
I think that's a great question, because if you're a team right now and you're let's say a Denver Broncos or a team that quarterback situation is still up in the air, and you have a good team around that quarterback, you go all out. You go all out to get a top 5 quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson. And I'm going to have to be told no multiple times by those GMs because that is the position in the NFL that carries your team. Look at it last year with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. It's not a mistake that those guys are in the Super Bowl every year because of the talent that they have. You can put lesser talent around a great quarterback. If you have a quarterback that's not a franchise type player, and I don't believe Drew Lock is, you're going to have to put great talent around him to have a chance at a Super Bowl. That's everyone's goal. Denver has a new GM in George Patton. He's done a really good job in the draft and free agency this year. Did a great job when he was with Minnesota. But, it's time to go in and get that quarterback. They brought in Teddy Bridgewater to kind of be a backup and maybe push Drew Lock a little bit. But is that a Super Bowl caliber team with a person that's under center? Not sure. But in today's NFL, it is so imperative to get that quarterback position right. And if 2 outstanding quarterbacks are on the market, you got to go in and see at least what the value they're wanting for that player. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a little bit different than Deshaun Watson's, but there's a little bit different in age and longevity with the 2 players too. But those are 2 good situations, 2 good quarterbacks that can come right in and win ball games for you.
Like if you were if you're running a team and you had a shot at Watson or Rodgers, Watson, there's baggage, but he's a much younger player. Rodgers, he's kind of at the end of his career, but except for kind of the problems he's had with Green Bay, a little cleaner. Which one would you prefer?
You have to do the research on Watson and if he's going to get suspended by the league, if that's a potential issue where you may lose 6 or 7, 8 games from a player because of the issues off the field, you're really going to have to investigate that. They've had a lot of time, but the time those allegations were put out there to now, to have your own people do that legwork and find out what the league knows, find out what the team knows, especially if you're going to make a trade. I want Deshaun Watson because I want the next 4 or 5 years. Aaron Rodgers may be one and done. Could you win with him this year? Sure. And that's a great all-in mentality, and I love it. But I would rather have that next 4 or 5 years with a guy like Deshaun Watson, especially with the team that I have assembled around him with a Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. They had a nice running back this year, Williams, out of North Carolina that they drafted, starting to put the offensive line together. The defense looks pretty solid. I like that team over the next 4 or 5 years with a Deshaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers, like I said, could come in and win right now, but he could be one and done. He seems to have other things going on in his life that could take him away from football. But if the allegations are not as true with Deshaun Watson, I'm going for that. I'm making a phone call to Houston.
Yeah, Blake, when you look at these 2 quarterbacks, how many teams, and I know you don't know this per se, but when a name like Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson become available, how many teams actually would consider, front offices say, hey, let's just think about, can we acquire this guy?
I think the league has changed from 10, 15 years ago to now. I think 10, 15 years ago, those names really wouldn't come up, but fewer teams would be interested. Now with the uncertainty of the head coach and general manager position because of the high turnover that you're having from owners want to win now. 15 years ago, you had owners that the NFL, what they owned in the NFL was just a side job. Now it's become the job for a lot of these owners. They're in the building. They want to see wins. They want to see championships. They want to hold that trophy up. So, to answer your question, I think that it's become more important when those kind of value players come on the market to go after them. That would have never happened 15 years ago just because you had general managers that had more stability, head coaches that had longevity, owners that had been in the league for 30 years. This is a different era. And to go all in, if you're a John Gruden who's kind of, struggled a little bit in his first couple of years back in the league, if you're Denver, if you're some of these programs like that are so close but need that guy behind center to be a championship type coach again or championship type GM, I'm going all in because you may not be there by the time you get a chance to draft one.
That's good.
So true. So true. All right, so Blake, we've already seen 2 NFL coaches leave the league because of their refusal to take the vaccine, their concerns over the vaccination issue. We've seen players some prominent players, Jalen Ramsey, DeAndre Hopkins, Cole Beasley, obviously, that have expressed concerns about the vaccination. Is there a way to split the baby in this situation? Is there a way to find a compromise, a kind of a middle ground so that those people that are expressing concerns are heard and maybe perhaps made some kind of accommodation while at the same time keeping other players safe? I mean, is there any way through this for maybe a Roger Goodell, for a DeMaurice Smith, for all these teams that are having to shed key coaches and players potentially?
I'm surprised the NFLPA hasn't been more in the forefront of this conversation just to protect their players. That is a personal right. And I'm not trying to get into politics or anything like that. But, when you have players that maybe have concerns over taking a vaccine, doesn't mean they're not they don't care about their teammates or they don't want to get someone sick or whatever the situation may be. But there may be concerns. There may be physical issues that you have that don't allow you. I know of people that cannot take vaccines because it harms them physically. The NFL needs to be able to hear that and take each individual situation on its own merit. So, I think just to say these players are going to be ostracized or fined or maybe suspended if they come down with the disease, then that's tough. I think you're separating the league and the players even more than it has to be, especially with those type rules and those type things in place. Has the NFLPA done enough for their players? I don't know. I haven't read about it where they at least have been out on the front protecting them from these type situations with the league, especially when everything is collectively bargained in the CBA between the two sides.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's tough when you're talking about coaches as well. You're talking about some coaches maybe that are a little bit older and maybe a little bit afraid of what the vaccine may do to them physically. They've made some money in the league, and maybe they can walk away for a couple of years and maybe come back. It is a league where you can do that, but it's a tough situation, and they had to make a personal decision. Unfortunately, they had to walk away.
Now, playoffs last year, reset, whole new year coming up. Could you give us one team from the AFC, one team from the NFC, a team that failed to make the playoffs that you anticipate might have a good run? And if we have time, I would love to hear a great CO Procado story because he was one of my favorite people to see down at the Senior Bowl every year, him sitting there at the Renaissance lobby. But fire away if you can, Blake.
My NFC team is probably the Vikings, and part of what we discussed, the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams situations, is the team really all in this year? You know, you got your quarterback that's having issues. That could cause a lot of problems. Chicago, when are they going to turn it over to the rookie? Can the rookie continue to, make the playoffs in a situation where kind of they were last year? Minnesota had a lot of injuries. They're bringing guys back. Daniil Hunter, they brought in Davin Tomlinson. They have some players in place to make that run into the playoffs. I think AFC-wise, you look at the Dolphins and you go, they brought in Jalen Waddle, Will Fuller, Tua Tagovailoa's got to be the guy, but they have a great core in place, and I really love what Miami's doing. Maybe they're a year away, but if you look at where they are talent-wise, they're going to put a lot of heat on a lot of teams. So I love those two teams. C.O. Mercado, I've got a book on C.O. Mercado stories. It's unbelievable, but there's so many that I could probably say. Some of them would have to be bleeped out, as you well know if you've met him. But one of my favorite people, my mentor in the business, and probably one was great. C.O. was a good player at Baylor University. He played at Baylor in the 50s, and so anyway, he was well known down there. And C.O. had just come off a hip injury where he was kind of getting back on his feet. And so I did a couple of pro days for him, and one of them was Baylor, and he was not supposed to leave his home in Dallas. But of course he shows up at his university for the pro day. And anyway, we're at the pro day, and the pro day's wrapping up. And if anybody knows CO, he gets his little bag and he's ready to leave as soon as that pro day's over, because he's got to get in the car and go to the next one. So the athletic director comes up to CO and myself and said, "Hey, do me a favor. Will you work this kicker out? This kicker is the son, I think, of the vice president and the president of the university. Would you work him out real quick and just, do us a favor? Because nobody's worked out the kicker. You worked out everybody else." So CO walks up, and he was so ready to leave anyway. He just was in a hurry. He told the guy, said, "Sure, bring him out, have a couple of kicks." So the kicker walks up, kicks 2 kicks, and he said, "All right, that's it. That's all I need to see." And the athletic director walked up to him with the kid, the kicker, and said, "CO, what did you think of the kid?" He said, "Hey, did you get your degree?" And he said, "Yes, sir, I did." He said, "Good. You're going to need it because you're not playing in the NFL." Turned around and walked off. And the athletic director just had this look on his face like, "That's not what I was hoping you would say. I really needed you to be nice to the guy." But CO was just honest and said, "You're not going to play in the NFL. You're done. You're going to need your degree." But that's just one of a million CO Mercado stories. He's a
I've heard that story in another vein with other players, Blake, and that's not to say that it didn't happen with other players. I mean, yeah, CO didn't lose much off his fastball all the way through his career. When it came to questions about things like that, he was pretty blunt sometimes. All
right, you got time for one more?
I got time. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Go for it. All right. So we're at the combine, the Indianapolis Combine. CO had a hip surgery. But he had, while he was there, he times the 40s officially on the field forever. He had gotten in his hip where he just had the surgery, he had gotten a staph infection. And he was toughing it out every day, trying to go time the 40s. Well, finally, the team doctor for the Titans said, "You got to go to the hospital." Okay, this was the year that the quarterbacks were coming out, Vince Young, that group. And he said, and Vince was a Texas player, CO's area. So we're in the hospital. CO can barely walk into the hospital. And he sees Vince Young down the hallway, way down the hallway, 25, 30 yards down the hallway, because he's going there to get his physical for the combine. And he stops. The doctor's trying to take CO to the room to get x-rayed and look at this staph infection that he's got in his hip, for goodness sakes. And he's yelling, "Hey, Vince Young, get down here, boy. Come on, get down here." And Vince, he's looking at this old guy that's limping around, and he knew who he was because he'd been to Texas so many times. He said, "All right, I'm going in the hospital. Give me your cell phone number right now. We got to talk. We got to talk about, some things." He said, "I'm going to be in the hospital for a few days, but I got to get your cell number." And Vince Young just pulls out his phone real quick, puts in his cell phone number. The guy never stops working. He's literally going into the hospital to have something cleaned out, and he couldn't quit working. He's just always on, and I love him, and I miss him. He's a beaut.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, the grind never stopped for CO, that's for sure. We're wrapping things up, Blake, but I want to get your take. Who's your MVP this year? Your defensive and offensive players of the year, and who's going to be the best rookie this year?
I'm going to go way off the thing. Now, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP of the league. I mean, after last year losing the Super Bowl, seeing what Tom Brady did, he's going to have they've redone the offensive line. He's got his offensive personnel back. He's the best player in the league. He just is, and that's why he's going to be the MVP. So, not really, going off script here with him. But I think Defensive Player of the Year, T.J. Watt was so close last year. It's a toss up between him and Jalen Ramsey, because I think Jalen Ramsey's going to have a really nice year too. He's the best corner in the league, and that's what he does. But when you talk about sacks, T.J. Watt's going to have. He's done it. He's done it over the last few years. He's on a good team. Just think he's that close, and I think it's going to happen for him this year. I think he's one of those. When you look at offensive MVP, I think Christian McCaffrey is going to come back around this year. I think he's a dynamic player in that offense. I really see him doing good things. Sam Darnold's going to have to be a good quarterback for that to happen. Can't ever count out Derrick Henry. What has he done? Who stopped him over the last few years? Nobody. So those are my two that I kind of look at and I say, they're right in the mix for the Offensive Player of the Year. Rookie, Jamar Chase. You look at what Jefferson did last year with Minnesota. He had Adam Thielen around. Jamar Chase has Boyd. He has Higgins. He's got the quarterback that he's used to. Mixon will be back for Cincinnati. I really like what Jamar Chase can do. Not having to be the number one guy, not having to even be the number two guy at times, but really can be a productive and explosive rookie for them, especially with a quarterback that he's used to, that he has a comfort level with, and he really has dynamic talent. So I can see Jamar Chase being the Rookie of the Year. Jalen Waddle's kind of my side guy on the side because of exactly what we talked about earlier. You already have Will Fuller, who's going to stretch the field and take the top off. You have Devontae Parker and Tua Tagovailoa. Again, he has that comfort level with, and Jalen can work deep. He can work intermediate and short and do a lot of great things. But I'll go with Jamar Chase if I'm going to stay with one answer.
Those are awesome, awesome takes, awesome looks. Blake, before we let you go, tell us about your service and what you're doing out there these days, man.
Beddingfield Sports is something I love to do. It's something I've talked to about a lot of friends when I got out of the business, and there's just a need for consulting, and I do a lot of consulting in the NFL still. I take on NFL teams, and they ask me to evaluate positions for them that they need another look, kind of an outside unbiased look with the team, and I look at certain positions for NFL teams. In college, I've gone into college and I've helped set up recruiting departments for different universities, a lot like an NFL scouting department. Everything has gotten so big in college football now in terms of recruiting, especially with the transfer portal, where you have so many people's names in there that has to be organized and understood. I help teach young, really volunteer recruiters in those colleges how to write reports, what to look for. So I do a lot of that. And then I've taken on a lot of high school kids too. I did that a lot in Nashville, that I was comfortable with some kids and help promote them to universities. I have friends that there's at least one friend at every school in the country during my time scouting over 20 years. And I help promote them to those schools. And can never guarantee a scholarship, but what I do is I make sure that the people in charge look at their film and decide on their own whether they have that potential. And that's the hardest thing when you're talking about getting a scholarship is actually getting the tape in front of the right people. And I know those people, and I can do that for them. So that 3-tier system, it all kind of works together. And I love working still in the NFL and college and definitely in the high school realm too. So it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
If you're in any of those situations, if you're a parent, if you're a player, if you're anything at all, I encourage you to check out Blake. He's not going to charge you to talk to him. There's so many things he has to offer, and he's such an easy person, such an accessible person. Blake's been an immense help to Inside the League for so many years, and just really want to let people know that you're out there and that you're doing good work, and there's so many things you have to offer. Blake, thanks so much for joining us today, buddy.
Hey, you bet. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking football anytime, guys. Look forward to the season.
All right. Thanks.
Bo,
all right, man. We're here at the end of the show. We made it two shows. So far, so good. Again, I'm sure Rick's watching, but so far he hasn't pulled a plug on us. Who we got tomorrow?
We got another great lineup. Hump Day, Wednesday, day 3 of Neil and Bo with the State of Football show here. Murphy McGuire of Octagon Football. We're going to have former executive Randy Moeller as well, and then Catapult Leadership Jason Montanez. He's going to be our final guest tomorrow. And like I said, another fun-filled day. I thought today's show really went exceptionally well. And those CO Picado stories, you could listen to those for another 4 hours.
No doubt, man. That was a nice cherry on top of the program, man. That was a little bit of added extra that you only get here. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you can make it again tomorrow. We'll be back bright and early, 9 a.m. Eastern, for show number 3 of ITL's takeover of the state of football. Hope you can join us. See you tomorrow.